Well, during COVID, I sold more than a handful of houses sight unseen because people couldn't come in and see them. I still do a lot of what I call virtual showings. I work with a lot of relocating clients, and often there's a house that comes on the market that a buyer is interested in but can't get here from Chicago or California to see it, especially because our market is still moving very quickly and things go under contract so fast. So I thought I would make a quick video on things that you should think about and talk to your agent about if you are a remote buyer so that you can get the most possible out of a virtual showing. So from the time the agent arrives, you want to make sure you get a good street view. Let her look at the street and what's across the street and what's next door, and show you the house from the street, because sometimes it might be up a really steep driveway or down in a gully, and the photographers try hard to hide those things because they're not usually appealing. So you'll want to make sure you really understand the siting. And one thing about the Google Street View, it helps you know, can you park on the street? Could you walk your dog or push a stroller? And those are things you might want to know. Then other exterior things, make sure that the agent shows you the exterior of the house, including stonework, siding, windows. Look for window rot. A lot of times if there's wood around the outside of the windows, there may be rot. To the extent that you can see the roof from the ground, you want to look at that. Look at the landscaping, patios, decks and railings. And I always like to go all the way to the edge of the property boundaries and then turn around and show my clients what the rest of the yard and then back to the house looks like, so they can sort of see what the house looks like from the furthest parts of the property. While they're outside, you might want to also have them pay attention to whether there's any highway noise, because that can be a bummer. Have them look at any outbuildings like sheds or anything like that, just so you know if you're dealing with a usable space or something that's all rotted out and it's just something you'll have to get rid of. Inside, make sure that your agent is showing you basements and attics. Note the ceiling height. Can you stand? Is there enough room to finish a basement? That'll be an important feature. Is there any dampness in the basement or musty smell that might indicate you have water infiltration? You want to make sure that they check the garage for you. Sometimes there is, for example, a pole right in the middle that can make it difficult to open your car doors. So you'll want to know what you're dealing with in the garage if there is one. The systems in a house are really important, and you may or may not be able to get that much information visually, but it's always a good idea to have the agent show you the boiler or the furnace, the hot water heater. Again, I said outside, the roof to the extent that they can. Any of those expensive systems which you have to keep maintained so that you can have an idea of whether there's going to be big replacement or repair costs in the future. Be sure to have the agent open the doors to the closets. It's important to know how much storage you'll have, whether that's storage in the basement or attic or storage for your clothing in the bedroom. So you'll want to assess the size of the closets. Condition. So things like updatedness of the kitchen and bathrooms, that's going to be fairly obvious, but make sure your agent checks the floors, whether there's wall-to-wall carpet or there's hardwood floors or engineered wood floors, and the walls, paint, wallpaper, to get a sense of, again, whether there will be significant updating or repair costs in floors or walls. Please pay attention in the virtual tour to room sizes and layout. In bedrooms, if you have windows and radiators and doors that make it so it's going to be very difficult to put furniture there and have it clear the radiators, not be in front of the window, be able to open the door, all of that. That's important. So make sure you focus on that as well. And then lighting. That's both interior lighting, ceiling lighting, and or natural light. Try to get a sense of how bright the house is. So the mechanics of the virtual showing. Make sure your agent shows you everything from a horizontal view, so you have a bigger picture view, and that she's holding the camera at eye level, and every so often pans from a standing position so that you can understand the layout and where things are relative to other things. It can be very useful to get the seller's Wi-Fi, because otherwise sometimes the call doesn't work, the Zoom doesn't work, especially if you go into the basement. So I always contact the listing agent ahead of a virtual showing and ask if the seller would mind sharing the Wi-Fi password. Finally, and this is a really important one, my recommendation is instead of FaceTiming, you, the buyer, should initiate a Zoom and send a Zoom link, because if you Zoom and you provide the link, you can record it. It can be very helpful to go back after the showing and look at the recording, especially paying attention to the conversation. For example, if the agent walks through an area and says, it's really tight here, right as you move from the living room into this family room area. Those are important observations that you may or may not forget and that can affect your interest level in the property. So I hope that those are some things that can be of use to you if you are looking at properties virtually.